Guy de Maupassant's Boule de Suif is not a light, satirical wartime story, nor is it just a simple tragedy about a patriotic outcast. It is a terrifyingly precise deep dive into class hypocrisy and psychological cannibalism. It shows exactly what happens when the elite members of a defeated society are locked in a room with a low-born woman, treating her like an infectious disease when they are safe, but converting her body into a strategic currency the exact second their own comfort is threatened. Too many modern readers treat this masterpiece as a simple high school reading list story about bad manners. Today, we are stripping away that comfortable gloss. We are going to look at this text through an unflinching lens to see how France's most respectable citizens performed a ruthless moral foreclosure on an innocent soul, using her patriotism to pay their own bills. The narrative begins not on a battlefield, but inside a moving carriage. The passengers represent the entire pyramid of French capitalism and status. There are wealthy wine merchants, aristocratic counts, industrial factory owners, political schemers, and holy nuns. Society has calculated their net worth in millions, but right now they are fugitives escaping an invasion. In their eyes, the woman sitting across from them is a moral zero. She is a prostitute, a social outcast, a creature living completely outside the boundaries of respectability. For the first half of the journey, the carriage is a battlefield of silent contempt. The elite couples whisper class slurs, wrapping themselves in their expensive furs, drawing a sharp line between their pure money and her dirty profession. They form a solid alliance to isolate her, completely blind to the fact that their own physical survival is about to depend entirely on the bottom of her basket. The true nature of the elite's defense mechanism reveals itself the moment basic physical survival smashes through. Let us look honestly at this first transaction. The wealthy elites, in their panic to escape, forgot to pack food. As the hours roll by, their aristocratic dignity begins to liquefy under the pressure of starvation. The count's stomach growls, the merchant's wife grows faint. Their millions cannot buy a single crumb of bread in the middle of a snowbank. This is where Boule de Suif makes a move of pure naive generosity. She opens her basket. She offers her high overhead provisions, her roasted chickens, her jellied meats, her expensive wines, to the very people who just treated her like trash. Look at the immediate, cynical reaction of the ruling class. The moment food enters the picture, their class solidarity turns into a public relations campaign. The merchant flatters her. The count speaks to her with polite charm. The ladies suddenly discover she has a lovely character. They don't see a human being, they see a free buffet. They eat her food, drink her wine, and liquidate her emotional assets to fill their own bellies. By the time the carriage reaches the halfway inn, the elite have learned a dangerous lesson. Boule de Suif's goodness is a vulnerable asset that can be easily exploited through cheap social recognition. The trap snaps shut when the physical force of the enemy meets the internal corruption of the French travelers. The Prussian officer occupying the inn delivers a blunt invoice. The carriage will not leave until Boule de Suif surrenders her body to him. For Boule de Suif, this is an impossible demand. She is a fierce patriot who loathes the invaders. Her refusal is a matter of personal sovereignty and political honor. But for the elite passengers, her dignity is an unprofitable luxury that is holding up their business schedules. The moment they realize their travel plans are frozen, their temporary friendliness turns into a coordinated psychological siege. They form a high-end alliance to perform a moral foreclosure on her body. Look at the tactics of their attack. They don't use raw violence, they use corporate gaslighting. They spend 3 days launching a psychological campaign during dinner. The count quotes historical examples of women who sacrificed their virtue for empires. The industrialist talks about the economic losses of the business world, and the holy nuns quote distorted scriptures, arguing that an act of sin becomes holy if it is done for charity. This is the peak cynicism of the bourgeois ledger. They are asking a woman to sell her body, not for her own profit, but to pay for their travel tickets. They weaponize her own patriotism against her, convincing her that her resistance is selfish, while their cowardice is noble. They manage her guilt, slowly wearing down her defenses until her mind completely calls. The total liquidation, the final settlement of the human invoice, arrives the morning after the transaction is completed. Boule de Suif yields. She goes to the Prussian's bed to buy her companion's freedom on credit. Next morning, the carriage is cleared to leave. The ledger is balanced, the Prussian has been paid, and the elite are free to pursue their millions. But the moment they step back inside the moving carriage, the social machinery resets with a freezing finality. Boule de Suif enters the carriage, broken, exhausted, and feeling deeply stained. She looks for a nod of gratitude, a simple smile of recognition from the people she just saved. Instead, she meets a wall of absolute isolation. The Count looks out the window. The merchant's wife pulls her skirts away to avoid contact. The nuns look down at their prayer books. The temporary alliance is dead. Now that they have successfully milked her asset, her existence is once again a liability to their respectability. To make the execution complete, the travelers pull out their own expensive lunches. Lunches they had plenty of time to purchase while Boule de Suif was busy paying their ransom. Nobody offers her a single crumb. Nobody looks her in the eye. They treat her like an infected entity, completely erasing her sacrifice from the record. She is left sitting in the corner, completely bankrupted, realizing the ultimate shattering truth. She sacrificed her body to save their lives, and they used that very sacrifice as proof that she was too dirty to be spoken to. Faced with a low-born asset that has been completely drained of its value, these noble French elites wipe away the bad debt in the most elegant way possible. The carriage bumps along the snowy road, filled with the happy sounds of the upper class eating their meals. Only Boule de Suif is left crying in the darkest corner, her tears mixing with immense humiliation. Sitting across from her, the politician whistles La Marseillaise, the national anthem that is supposed to stand for liberty, equality, and fraternity. Ordinary war stories love to talk about heroism under gunfire, but Maupassant gives a brutal reality check to Western civilization because he strips away the grand illusions and exposes the cold, predatory logic of social class. That loud whistling of the national anthem isn't a patriotic song. It is a cruel mockery of a poor soul. This group of respectable vampires used her body as a toll ticket, ate her food, used her patriotism for free, and then used a noble anthem to drown out the smell of their own rotten behavior. Never volunteer to protect the privileges of the elite, because in their financial formulas, your kindness, your passion, and your sacrifice are just depreciating assets they use to offset their own risks. When the cold machinery of society chooses hypocrisy to protect its interests, the only way for an ordinary soul to survive with dignity is to lose your naive innocence. When the cold machinery of society chooses hypocrisy to protect its interests, the only way for an ordinary soul to survive with dignity is to lose your naive innocence. Watch your basket and stay away from the elites. Never buy into an illusion of acceptance from a system that doesn't value you. Beneath the polished marble floors of polite society and moral speeches, the hard gravity of reality is a constant reminder. When respectable people bow down and smile at you, they aren't praising your goodness. They are just figuring out the most elegant way to eat you.